Hey guys, I'm redlaserbm, and I'm back with another video. What we're going to be doing this time is we're going to take a look at one of my most recent tracks, which I'm just wrapping up right now. So what I want to do in this video is that I'm going to play through the track, and I'm going to talk about what went into making the track, some of the design choices that were made, some samples, some synth sounds that I used, all that jazz. I'm gonna try and go over as much as I can within roughly half-hour period. So, first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and play the track for you guys. So I never actually go into these tracks making them with an overall idea of how I want it to go. I never plan these out beforehand. I generally just start off with an idea and kind of improvise as I go. I have a little bit of delay effect on it, and the delays are a little bit high passed. So that's how you get that effect. Well, actually what happens is that if I play this, what I'm going for when I do this delay is that I don't want more kicking action, I don't want more sub. I want to try and extract some of the high ends from this kick to create some nice ambience. The distortion doesn't really do too much to the sound, it just kind of gives it slightly different flavor. This sample is a fairly obscure sample, and you see this pop up during this drum loop. It actually pops up basically during this whole part of the track here. It doesn't really take away too much to have the sounds laid out like this, where I only have one of these three things playing at a time. Now, in your traditional percussion loops, you know, you'll have moments where the kick and the snare might trigger at the same time, and the percussion fill is always going on. But here I only have the percussion fill, this sample right here. I only have it occurring when there's not a kick and a snare. Now here, I mean, this works because ultimately your brain is still going to try and fill in those missing details. It's going to try and hear this. It's going to try and hear that even though this sample doesn't actually always play every other time. It only plays when you see these threes come up, which is less frequently than you think. And so your brain gets kind of fooled by that, which is pretty cool, really cool effect. This kick with this high pass filter on the delay, that also helps kind of fill in the missing sound too. You can hear the difference if I disable this. And I mean, it's still a cool sound. It's still a cool sound, but it doesn't complement this sound right here very well. So when you turn it back on, good fill, very good fill. And that's how this drum loop, or that's how this percussion right here, this drum program, I guess that's how it manages to stay active even though there's actually not that much going on in terms of how frequently notes are being triggered. Now, a really crucial element of this track that gives it its defining sound is this right here. That sound right there, that's a synth sound, and the preset is by yours truly. So a couple things going on here. Now, one thing to note is that so there's two elements here to the serum patch. I'm gonna assume that you guys are familiar with what serum is. So two main elements to the sound. You have this kind of screeching sound here. Now this LFO kind of controls the wavetable position. What's happening is that we have a little something called Chaos 2, and Chaos 2 is actually mapped to this wavetable position modifier here, this knob. But how much that Chaos knob impacts the position, the strength of that effect is modified by this LFO. The LFO is anchored to the BPM. It cycles once every bar in this track, so you get something which is pseudo-random, but at the same time, it's almost sort of rhythmic. So at this end right here, at this end right here too, at this end right here, there's no effect. There's no effect, and the wavetable position is just right here. But right here, at this point, the wavetable could go anywhere from from here to like somewhere around here. It could go all the way over here, actually. It's kind of hard to see that blue dot, but you kind of see it, it's kind of moving around. But again, when this LFO reaches one of the endpoints here, it doesn't move around as much. Then we have the sawtooth sound, which basically just adds more noise. If we turn, the noise is just a consequence of the frequency modulation happening from this thing. This is a garbled mess to apply frequency modulation onto something with. So, I'm going to turn it off. You'll notice when I play back here what that does. That helps. What's cool about this delay here is that it fills the sound, but at the same time, you don't get any of the muddiness that might come from trying to put reverb on this. Say, for example, we do try to put some reverb on this to turn it on. Something that I haven't talked about yet, which I think I should talk about, is the side chaining that's going on here. There's a lot of side chaining that is creating a lot of the effects in this track. So what we basically have here is this shows. So this is tracking the amplitude of stuff happening here. What I'm doing is I'm feeding it into this device right here. So this input meter reflects, how much volume is coming out of this channel, and I use that to modulate a whole wide variety of parameters. In fact, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters that I modulate here. Perhaps the most important parameters that I'm modulating happens with this section right here. So this right here, this knob, so this is, this goes up when the amplitude in the jump channel goes up, and it goes down when the volume in the jump channel goes down. And what I have here is it's modulating the filter. It's modulating the filter. It's not only modulating the filter, it's actually modulating a whole bunch of other parameters in this preset as well. Okay, so when this goes up, this filter actually goes up. So as the drums get louder, this sound brightens up. See, there's a little bit of wave table position modulation happening. Also distortion. This sound is killed if I don't have the distortion effect on it. So I got a nice crunchy distortion. When the drums get louder, the drive goes up, and the mix also, that right there is just, this is just me fine-tuning the sound. This doesn't have too much impact on the overall sound. A little bit of EQ. There was this one frequency I didn't like, so I tried to crunch it down. Yeah, about 440. Try to crunch it down. So if I get rid of that, I think it was 440. Yeah, it was 440. This sound right here also is part of the bass sound that you hear during the track. This name here is actually very misleading. So this is a stringed instrument, which is passed through a multitude of distortion effects, and it just happens to sound like a bootleg guitar when I do that. So. Something I thought was pretty cool when I was making this was this right here. So when I was making this track, I got to about here, and I was kind of stuck as far as where to go. But then I noticed that what I was making had kind of reminded me of this drum loop right here, this sniper break. Very popular drum break in drum and bass. So if you're a drum and bass junkie, you've probably heard of this. If not, now you've heard of it. I might as well talk about this crash sound while I'm here. I wanted kind of a distorted sound, because the theme through this track has been not just having distorted sounds for the sake of having distorted sounds, but also combining them with very harmonic sounding elements. So a straight up distortion for some reason just didn't quite work as well as I thought it would. So. But what did work was having the distortion kind of come in when I started the note, and then having it fade out as the note continued, and so that's what's happening here. I only use this actually once in the song, and that's just to make this transition a little cooler. So, I listen to the sound here. Hear that ambience there? I have this ambient sample kind of in here. Let me actually play this. That actually helps to complement this right here and add a little ambience to, add a little pizzazz to otherwise some, I mean, high quality. They're high quality. They're high quality choir awes, but you know they're kind of just asking to have something added onto them to make them a little bit more unique. So yeah, a couple more sounds I need to talk about before I skedaddle on out of here is this sound right here gets used frequently throughout the track. This was a preset that was created on accident. Like I didn't know what I was doing, but I just suddenly came up with this. So all the sound is coming from here. This right here, the level of this sound is actually at 0. So all the sound's coming from here. There's just some amplitude modulation that's happening, which is, you know, I just have oscillator B just doing amplitude modulation here, and so. Some of that weirdness and screeching is because of the detune effect I'm applying to this unison, just kind of oscillating. So bringing in the AM is what allows me to get this done. There's one more effect I need to talk about, and that's this sound right here. This is a very simple kind of cyclic resonant bass type sound with just a little bit extra pizzazz added onto it. So, basic resonant bass sound. You have this band filter that kind of cycles through. The cutoff is controlled by this LFO. This is where most of the sound's coming from, this right here. This LFO attached to the volumes of both these oscillators helps keep it sounding like, you know, kind of like that. So if I bypass it, well, it actually goes silent when I bypass it, but... This is to get a little bit of a growl implemented into the sound. So another subtle effect that helps shape it and give it kind of a unique character. So that's all I have for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. You know, hopefully in the future I can get to doing more stuff like this and showing you guys some more cool behind the scenes about how I make some of these tracks. If you liked the video, then you know, subscribe to the channel. You might see some more stuff like this pop up on the channel. Until then, I'll see you around.